Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today to play with some Australis makeup. Now this is a fairly new release from them, but it was a few months ago. I actually was sent this, I was contacted by the Australis team on Instagram and they were like, do you want to try some stuff? And I was like, sure, but just letting you know, I've got a new baby and I'm really slow with stuff and it is what it is. And they're like, yeah, I just want you to try it. So they sent over their new Dewy and Daring cream stick range. So there's 4 blushes, 2 bronzers and 2 highlighters. So I'm going to play with those today and I can swatch them for you. They also released these eyeshadow palettes. There's Dream of Me and Hazy Daze, which Hazy Daze looks like something I can really get behind. But Dream of Me also has some really nice mauvey tones in it, which I'm sort of into at the moment. So I've seen these on like Instagram a lot and people have been saying really nice things. So I'm really keen to play with them. That's what I'm doing. But these were sent to me. So just letting you know, and they were sent to me like months ago. And sorry, Australis, for being so slow with them. So if you're not familiar with Australis, they are a drugstore Australian brand. I do know that they tend to be on a few people's lists if they come to Australia and they want to check out Australian drugstore makeup. That's one that is pretty common. It's been around for decades. I remember it from like the 90s. I remember like this sort of sporty vibe. It was a thing. I particularly love their Fresh and Flawless pressed powder. It's like a powder with a bit more coverage. So if I want like a touch-up powder that's not too expensive, that one's great. And they often have sales. Like I saw these on sale at Priceline, I think just last week for half price. So they often have sales. They're stocked at Priceline, Chemist Warehouse, all that kind of stuff. So Big W, I think Target. They can find them most places and yeah, you can also find them generally somewhere on sale, which is what I like to recommend with drugstore products. But full priced, these sticks are $14.95. I've got the description of the blush here, but I'm assuming the highlighter and the bronzer are very similar. It says a soft blendable cream blush with tones ranging from soft neutrals to vibrant hues. The luxurious texture applies seamlessly, creating a youthful and healthy complexion with a glowy skin-like finish. Just swipe on, blend and go. So not heaps of information, not heaps of claims. So I really like the packaging. It's just a nice stick. I like the color. Obviously it's matching my nails. It's a nice purple. My kid is gonna try to steal these and draw them all over his face. But you just take the lid off and you just twist it up and you could also twist it down. So it's just a nice basic packaging, works really well, doesn't feel too thin and yeah, it feels nice quality, nice fun color. I dig it. All right, we'll start with blushes. This one is Main Character, which is the deepest shade. It's like a nice sort of berry shade. So let's just give it, oh, one swipe, bam. First Love is more of a corally pink. So that's more of a vibrant, fun sort of spring summer shade. Girl Next Door is more of a sort of neutral pink, more of a nudie pink. I love it. I love these sort of shades. They work with all makeup. I feel like this is going to be my favorite one. Side Chick is more of a sort of light peachy color. Ride or Die is the deeper shade of bronzer. This is a little bit drier in formula. Oh, there we go. Just needed a little bit of work, but there you go. Pigmentation is there. Summer Fling. Again, I'll just fix it up a little bit, but yeah, nice pigmentation. These are quite light. There's only 2 shades available. It would have been nice to see a much darker one as well, but hopefully they can expand on that in the future. Onto the highlighters, we have Bombshell, which is more of a golden sort of color. These are very pretty. There's a nice sort of shine to them. I can see like maximum shine from my angle. It's really, really pretty, but it's also got a slightly sort of translucent base, so it's not going to be too metallic. It's going to give a nice effect. Last one, highlighter in It Girl, which is more of a light champagne. So again, there it is, like a more white champagne, but they're really pretty. All right, these 2 palettes, it's the first time opening these and I'm actually very keen to try them. They're giving me Sigma palette vibes. They've got these sort of duochrome type colors in there that look, they remind me a lot of the sort of really twinkly, beautiful shades that like Pat McGrath and Sigma have in their palettes. So I don't think I've seen anything like this in Australian drugstore, so this is very exciting. This palette that's Dream of Me, it's got the flowers on it. It's more of that sort of feminine vibe, a bit cool toned. It's got mauvey colors, soft pinks, some browns, like a dark sort of blackened purple sparkle. This does have 5 mattes and 7 shimmers, so they are shimmer heavy. I don't mind that. I quite like that. But I think this sort of duochrome effect, I think it's going to be really pretty. So it looks very cool in person. I don't think you can capture it as well on camera, but hopefully we can have a play. I'm just loving this shade here. It reminds me of one that I've got. It's a limited edition shade from Bobbi Brown that I got years and years and years ago, where it's this sort of translucent color, but it has this like violet shift. You're not even going to be able to see this properly. This to me looks like vibrant purple. It's really, really pretty. So it's hard to really capture the shift because they look kind of bland on camera, but they do have this beautiful sort of iridescent shift to them, which again is sort of hard to find in drugstore in Australia. Same goes for Hazy Daze, which is just more of a gold and sort of green and warm tone palette, but again, it has some really interesting shifts. This one here shifts to like a bright mint or aqua color. This one's got a bit of a bluey sort of element to it. There's some that have like a more of a lime green, and this one has like it's like white to yellow. So even though it looks washed out and bland, hopefully I'll insert some better footage, but these look promising. These are also only $19.95 full price. So under 20 bucks for a palette in Australia is very hard to come by because our dollar and our economy and stuff, things are just quite expensive. So the fact that you can get these for under 20 bucks, and then if you get them on sale, they're even cheaper. We'll see how these hold up, but I want to swatch them. Let's swatch them. All right, I still have a little bit of bronzer on here, but I'm swatching no primer, just with my fingers. These shimmery ones are a little bit chunkier to pick up, but hopefully you can see that they've got that beautiful sort of shift to them. So I'm starting with the top row and then I'm going bottom row. So this is just like a light matte pink. It actually swatches really nicely for what looks like a powdery pink. This one, it's like a rose gold. It's got this beautiful sort of iridescent. I'll shift the camera when I've got them all on, but you can see it just picks up the light really beautifully. They're not the most bold in like opacity, but they've got this beautiful shine to them that's really gorgeous. This is one that's got that violet sort of flash to it. Oh, beautiful. Again, drugstore, cheap, makeup, really good. Zoom in a bit. I think I was zoomed out too much. These mattes actually feel like they're more satin sort of formula. I love that. It's like a rosy transition color, really pretty. Yeah, these are a little bit chunky, but I think they give a beautiful effect. That's got like a beige base and that sort of green shift to it. Again, you see this in indie brands. See it in like, I don't want to say his name, but like Jeffree Star and brands like that tend to have these sort of colors going on. This last shade on the top row is quite sheer, but it's also nice and even. So it would give you like a light smokiness without, I don't know, it doesn't look patchy, it doesn't look flaky and dry, but it is like a dark, almost purpley grey, rather than a really dark blackened grey. Next row, I'm hoping to squeeze them in this section. We'll give it a go. This one is like a frosty light pink. It does have some white sort of shimmer to it, so it'd be a nice cool toned highlighter. We've got another sort of vibrant fiery pink. This one's more orangey. It's got more of an orange sort of shift to it. This is definitely more vibrant pink, really pretty. Again, not much base color, just a really smooth sort of flash of shine. This is sort of like a beige, again, that sort of satin finish, which applies really smoothly. Not crazy pigmented, but these would be really nice just to blend and have like a subtle look. It actually looks quite flattering on the skin. I like it. Oh, let's sneak in the last three. This is a beautiful sort of bronze. That's like my jam. It's like a brown with this sort of cool toned shimmer to it. So it looks quite neutral, not too warm, not too cool. This is a beautiful sort of terracotta brown. Again, these feel like they're a little bit wet. They're like cream to powder formula. These sort of satin ones, they're really pretty. And this blackened purple, again, this is one that I've seen from higher end brands. It's got like a blackened base with a purple shimmer to it. So these feel very high end for what they are. I think this is really cool. It's really promising. All right, so from swatching this, I just wanted to show you the pans. So just finger swatches. You can see that these are a little bit chunky, so they do pick up, they disrupt the pan a little bit when you're touching them, so just be careful. These feel like cream to powders. They remind me a little bit of higher end brands such as like Natasha Denona has some sort of like cream to powder product. They feel very smooth and almost a little bit creamy. I think they're going to be really beautiful sort of everyday, just sculpting, satiny, matte looking eyeshadows. I think they're really gorgeous. I also want to just take a video with my phone so you can see the angle that I'm currently looking at, because I can see the beautiful light picking up on these, and it's such a different palette to what you're seeing on camera at the moment. Okay, on to Hazy Daze. I'm going to do the same thing. Again, same textures so far, that sort of creamy, satiny feel, and the sort of chunkier shimmers that look nice and iridescent. This is just a lot more of a warmer palette. I'm going to start a bit further back. So this one looks like it's like a white, sort of yellowy effect. Again, there we go. I'll do some different angles soon. We've got just a nice sort of camel colored, yeah, not caramel, camel colored matte there. A very vibrant, whoa, that's a very vibrant yellow. That one is probably very different to all the other ones I've swatched because it's more of a metallic, like a very, very sort of smooth, wet metallic rather than this sort of crumbly texture. We're getting into some browns and greens. So that's, oh, that's like a beautiful rosy bronze. I love that shade. Very pretty. Your traditional sort of brown. Cool. And this is, it's like got a nudie brown base and it's got an iridescent green shimmer to it. So yeah, you can see that sort of tan base with that green vibe. This is less sparkly and more smooth than these ones here. So nice smooth effect. Matte cream. Again, they're not super pigmented, but they show up and they're super smooth. The fact that you can see that quite well on my arm is great. This is a really interesting sort of yellow shade that does have a bit of a greeny shift to it. So that's interesting. Very different to this one and very different to that one that's got more of a bluey green. It's like a sort of turquoise shift. This is more of a, like a lime shift. And then we have another yellow. I would say this is probably a little bit too similar to that one. Like this is more orange, that's more yellow, but they're very, very yellow, very yellow. Last three shades. So we've got a warm transition sort of peachy brown color. This one's interesting. It's got that peachy base, so that same color base as the one next to it, but it's got an almost bluey green shift to it. Hopefully you can see. Really pretty. Sort of similar to this one, but I think this is a little bit more rosy and a little bit more blue rather than green. And speaking of green, here's that sort of matte satin green. I think this is a really nice shade. It's almost like a neutral green. It's not too olive toned, not too gold toned, but it's also not too blue toned. I'd call it like an avocado green. So there we go. Oh, I've just knocked that. Oh, bugger. Pretty. There we go. We do have some sort of similar shades, but I think they all add something quite nice, and I'll try to capture this on the angle as well. All right, I'm going to start with the cheeks. I'm going to go in with bronzer first, and I'm going to use Summer Fling, which is the lighter shade. Just because they're so pigmented, I don't think I need the darker shade, but I do think they're probably creamy enough to blend out. You can blend with your fingers. Yeah, you can definitely blend with your fingers. Oh, they blend very nicely. Also, if you're not too sure about putting it just directly onto your face, you can just pick up a little bit with your finger and just sort of add more as you go, because these are very pigmented. I'm using the camera as like the viewfinder as my mirror. Probably not the best thing to do. Where's my mirror? So that's added a very subtle effect, so you can actually blend it out so it's not, there's not much there. I'm going to actually go in with a slightly deeper shade. This is Ride or Die, just to, I think the problem with this one to me is the tone. Now I do love Australis formula. I actually really like their, I did mention their Fresh and Flawless pressed powder. I really like that. I also like their Fresh and Flawless foundations they've got going on. I think they're really nice. I do think they're a little bit too like orangey toned for me. Like they're quite yellow toned, they're quite orange toned. I would like to see them, and if Australis, you're watching this, I'd like to see them sort of make a little bit more pinky neutral toned foundations as well, because I do, yeah, I can only sort of wear them in summer because that's where I can sort of get away with the tones, but that blends out really nicely. So even though that looked way too sort of orange for me, I think that adds a bit of color. I would like to see a cooler tone version of this so they could sort of go into the contour sort of market, not just the warm bronze sort of market, but hopefully they do add to this. I'm just going to mix the two. There we go. So that does look cooler, but because it is quite light, it sort of disappears a little bit. So I'd like to see a cooler tone one, but in a sort of deeper color. And I'm going to blend this out with my sponge that I applied my foundation with today, just to sort of see different methods on how to apply this. And I do need a mirror. Okay. Get into the hairline so I don't have the light hairline. I think that's really pretty. I think blends nicely. It sort of fades out to not much, so you can sort of overdo it accidentally and bring it back quite easily. I think I like the sponge better than the fingers. I think you just have sort of, I don't want to say more control, but I just feel like you can sort of, I think you have more control. I'm going to go there. I think it also, usually sponges don't leave that much product on, it absorbs a bit. But if you've got a damp sponge, I feel like this actually spreads it more rather than lifts it. I think with your fingers you can sort of lift it away a little bit. But that's pretty. I like it. I sort of want to use two blushes as well because two of them are speaking my name. I love the nudie pink. I think that's really pretty. But I also love the peach, and I also like the vibrant coral, because vibrant, like a pop on like your apples of your cheek can be so fresh and nice with a nice sort of lip gloss. I think it can be really nice. So I want to go in with this one, which is one that I probably wouldn't have picked up myself, but it's like a lipstick color to be fair, but I think it could be really pretty. So again, I'm just going in, blend, blend, blend. See, even though these are pigmented, they do blend nicely. They don't set too fast, so you don't have that edge that you're really trying to frantically try to blend out. This just sort of moves really nicely. And so far, there's minimal picking up of my base. Again, I haven't set this area. I've just set the T-zone, but I think it's really pretty. You can see there's a nice shine to it, so it adds a beautiful sort of creamy effect. And on this side, I want to use the peach because, oh, I love it. I really love it. This looks lighter, so I'm going to put a little bit more on. But I love sort of peachy blushes. I do think actually, I think if you put a lot of this on, the effect is sort of similar to the blended out First Love. They sort of give a very similar effect. Oh, you can tell I'm not good with my blush placement. I put that one higher up, but again, healthy, nice, beautiful. That one is just, yeah, more pink and definitely more bold. That's a little bit more subtle. I prefer this, but we're going blush though, so I'm going to add a little bit more just to even it out. But these are quite nice. Even on my oily skin and the sort of foundations that I like to use that are a little bit more matte, this sort of blends really not nicely as long as it's, your makeup's not completely set. I haven't tested it on set makeup yet anyway. It might work really well. Pretty. Highlighter time. I am going in with Bombshell, which is the slightly deeper one. People are probably thinking, you are very fair, what are you doing? I just like a warmer tone. I think I like a highlighter that sort of matches my skin tone a little bit more. I think it just looks a little bit more natural and it makes your skin just look like you've got sort of dewy skin rather than you've got a strip of highlighter on your face. So I actually do prefer ones that are, I don't want them to be darker than my skin tone, and I don't want them to be too golden yellow. But if you blend out a color that is sort of your skin tone, it ends up looking just a little bit more, I don't know, natural. Like that doesn't look natural, Kat, but I think that's because it's over all the blush. hair, get out of it. That's super pretty. Can you see? I think it's a combination of the wet and the highlighter. It's just very, very glowy, very, very pretty. It's that sort of glass-like finish. And what I love about it as well is because it's not a powder, it doesn't actually emphasize skin texture. It actually looks very, very smooth. It's a little bit sticky. I do want to say it is a little bit sticky. Hopefully it sets a little bit more. My hair just wants to sort of stick to it. But it is, they all performed very nicely. I'm going to put some on my nose. Let's go It Girl, the light one on my nose, just a little bit. Now my nose is set, so the fact that that has blended, it's lifted my base a little bit. Not so much that I'd be concerned and need to like touch it up, but I would, if you were to apply these, I would recommend applying them on unset base. It just is easier, but it's all very pretty. All right, eyeshadow time. I haven't decided which palette I'm going to go for, but whatever. I am going to put a base down. It's a new base that I haven't tried. It's from Hindash, and Hindash has released this new product. It's the color fluid in the shade Canvas, so it can be used as a base, a cream eyeshadow, a liquid eyeliner. So I'm just curious to see how it goes. It's one of those ones that sort of black out your lid a little bit. So this is the type of base that would amplify colors. If you wanted something that was just like a wash of shimmer and you wanted it to look very, very natural, I'd probably go with more of a translucent eyeshadow base. But this one sort of covers up any color or veins or anything on your eyes and gives you that sort of canvas. It's quite nice. It's also blending quite well and setting not too fast, so I can actually put them on both eyes and blend without being worried that one's going to set before I get to it. All right. I actually think in itself, if I just put a bit of liner and more mascara, that's kind of a cool look. Dewy lips, dewy cheeks, and this sort of like matte cream eye. I'm not going to leave it like that, but it could be this. It could be a look. Could be a look. At the moment, I'm really vibing this sort of quad here with a little bit of the purple. But I know that if I didn't use the green palette, people would be like, Kat, who are you? Who have you become? So I'm going to use the green palette. I want to start with probably, I'm just trying to think, this in the crease. I'm going to put this one, which is that sort of rosy bronze, I think all over the lid. A bit more of that maybe on the lower lash line. And then I'm going to add in a bit of green and a bit of this green, and just, I'm going to work in this sort of section to start with. If I need to put any highlighter, I'll reach for that. But the browny green section is where I'm going. All right, I'm just going in with that sort of rosy matte nude color. Just with a tapered blending brush from Sigma. This is the E40 in limited edition packaging. Yeah, it's pretty. Picking these up with a brush, I've noticed there's a little bit of kick up in the pan. So these are they're easy to sort of disrupt the product, but it is a really smooth effect. These aren't like bold, sort of matte satin sort of formulas. They give you more of a nice perfected blended look, which I personally prefer. Like if I wanted something like cobalt blue, yeah, I want it to be super pigmented, but in terms of these sort of finishing off shades, I much prefer something that's a little bit more subtle and that blends really nicely and gives you sort of a perfected look. I feel like in the makeup world, pigmentation with eyeshadows tends to be like the thing that people rate. What they use it to judge whether it's a good eyeshadow or not. I think blendability and how it looks on the eye is more important, and I think that looks really nice. With a Real Techniques base shadow brush, I'm going in with that sort of rosy bronze shade above it. Picks up quite nicely. I am aware that this is probably going to, I'm going to be careful with it because I feel like it's going to have a bit of fallout, and because I've got the sticky base, I just want to be careful. This does stick quite nicely. I think this would look extreme over glitter glue. I find that this sort of formula on glitter glue, it just looks night and day. This is beautifully twinkly and I love this for an everyday effect. I would totally wear this. I would wear this to a play group. I'd wear this to the supermarket. This is my sort of everyday sparkle. I think it's gorgeous and it's such a nice sort of rosy bronze tone. But if you did want this to look really built up, I recommend a sticky base. So like a glitter glue would make this just so full on glittery. I think it would be spectacular, but it's not sort of the effect that I'm going for today. And I just want to test it with a sort of normal primer, but that is very, very pretty. I'm using my Sigma switch, so I'm just going to use that brush again with that first sort of matte shade just on the tip, just to run underneath my eyes for just a bit of color. Now that's all I'll do on a daily basis. Those two shades, done, that's done. Bit of mascara, off you go. But we're testing things out. So I want to go in with this one or that one, this one or that one. I might try this one. I think it's pretty cool. They have a similar sort of shift, so a bluey sort of green shift. I think just the base color is a little bit different. This is more of a rosy one, which I think will go well with what I've currently got on. It just changes the shift, so it looks a bit green. I actually want to put a bit of glitter glue on and just see what this can achieve with a bit of glitter glue, because that's pretty. It's very subtle, very soft, very pretty. I might put, again, same brush, just cleaning it off. Using the green, I'm going to put that in the outer corner. A bit powdery, so I'm going to tap it off. And I'm going to put that on. Again, these are quite subtle, these matte shades, but you can build them up to a beautiful sort of effect. So I'm going to build this up, get the green in the corner, and then I'm going to pop some glitter glue just on the center of the lid, just to really make that shimmer really bold. And you'll see the difference that a glitter glue can make to these types of eyeshadows. So these eyeshadows are really pretty just on a daily basis for a nice twinkle. Absolutely. I like, you know, I think they work well, they apply well, they pick up well. But if you want to take it to another level, or you've swatched it in store and you're like, this is not delivering what I was expecting, like, just get a glitter glue. And you can get ones from sort of more affordable brands. Since we're talking drugstore, well, with the eyeshadows, not the eyeshadow base, but since we're talking drugstore, I'll grab a drugstore one, but they make a world of difference and they can really make your eyeshadows very, very versatile. If you've watched my channel for a while, you know that my favorite glitter glue is by Too Faced, but if you do want a more affordable version, NYX has a very, very good glitter primer. I would say it is probably it's very close to the Too Faced one. It's just that I've got the Too Faced one. I really like it, so I just keep using it. It's got a squeezy tube, so you just need to squeeze out the smallest amount. Just start small because this stuff is quite potent. I like to just take it on my finger, dab it on. So this is the color of the Too Faced one as well. Again, a little bit goes a long way. So dab very lightly. I wouldn't rub because it would disrupt the base. And I don't want to disrupt the color underneath too much. I'm actually wiping a little bit off on the back of my hand because I've taken too much, just very, very lightly. Now, the reason why this works so well at amplifying shimmers and glitters is because it stays tacky until you put something over the top. So it's a sticky, you would not put this on and then just leave it. It doesn't set on its own like an eyeshadow base. It stays very sticky and grippy, and it is very good. You'll notice I'm just using two brushes for this look. This one I've wiped off again. I'm going in with this shade again, this one here. And you'll see the difference it makes applying to a glitter glue. I want to get close up so you can see the wondrousness. All right. Unfortunately, I picked up probably too much that it has now started raining down my face, and I'm going to be in trouble because it's going to be hard to brush that away, but you can see the effect that it's made is so much more intense. Now that that's sort of set, I'm going to go back in with that green, that matte green a little bit, but I wouldn't put this directly on the glitter glue just because it will like intensify it as I'm doing it now, but if you put it directly on, it could be quite hard to blend out. But yeah, that's already intensified that a little bit as well, so. All right, so hopefully you can see that is a lot more intense. It's just a lot sort of smokier. It's less sort of, like, you can definitely wear this on a daily basis, but it is a lot smokier and more vibrant. I actually want to go in with this palette. I want to put something on the inner corner, and I want something to sort of contrast a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe I might go in with this sort of rosy gold color. I don't even know what this is. It's a wooden brush with a point on it, and I've had it for like a billion years. So this part doesn't have the glitter glue on it, so we're just going to pop in. I'm just going to add a little bit more in just to sort of transition it. I don't want this to be too cool toned. I feel like what I'm wearing just doesn't really match really cool toned eyes, but I also wanted to just use that green palette. So we'll mix, we'll blend. Of course, you could do this with the yellows in the other palette, but I sort of like a green and a sort of soft pink duo. I think it's such a nice combo. I'm not sure if you can see too well, but it just gives that sort of soft peachy nude color, and then it goes into that green and that sort of smoky green effect from the matte, which I think is quite pretty. So I'm going to do a little bit of liner, not too much, just something, and some mascara, and I'll be back. All right, I've topped up my lip balm, which is the Lanolips tinted lip balm in Nectar. I've put on a little bit of Revlon. This is the ColorStay eyeliner, a bronze shade, just on my waterline, and I've topped up my mascara, which is the Rimmel Kind and Free mascara. So that's what I put on, and I think this is very pretty. I'm gonna say, look, this is still a bit sticky, so if you have dry skin, you're going to be obsessed with these because it's going to add a lot of moisture. I have had to blend out, there's a little bit of flecks of blue shimmer from the eyeshadow. So if you were going really dewy on the cheeks, I'd recommend doing your eyes first. That should go without saying, that's a common thing, but I don't do it for some reason. But I like this. I like this collection. I think it's really pretty. I'm going to zoom out and talk more about it. I know this is just a first impressions, but I think what I like the most about this collection, I think on a daily basis, I actually think these will slide into my routine more than the eyeshadow palettes will. So I like these more. I think, just for me personally, I think these are very pretty. They're very nicely pigmented. They're well formulated. They feel very creamy, very dewy. They give this beautiful wet look finish that people, especially with dry skin, will go nuts for. I think I will use these more in winter when my skin is less sort of sweaty and oily, but still it works very nicely on my skin. I think the colors are quite nice. You could definitely expand some of them, but I think at the start for Australian drugstore, this is very good, and the quality seems very high for the price point. So the packaging feels like it's not going to break. The one thing, these are domed, and if you're not careful, you can nick them, so these don't go down any further. That's probably my only gripe about them, but you're still got to be careful not to put the lid on at an angle and dig into them. But I think all of these apply really nicely. I think for something that looks quite pigmented, they blend out a lot more sheer, so you can actually build up or go a little bit more heavy-handed than you would think. And I think you can use these in multiple ways. They work nicely with the fingers, they blend out nicely with a sponge. You can also get your brush, so just get a brush, tap the product on and blend in. So because these are quite creamy and quite emollient, like they stay quite wet, they don't set down quickly, so they don't look patchy on the skin. It means that you do have time to work with it and play with it and move it around. Just judging on how the highlighter applied to my nose, these do risk a little bit of lifting of your base if you have set your base. So if you're going to use these, the simple thing to do is just set your T-zone if you need to, set under your eyes if you need to, keep the cheeks unset and just go on top with these, and they apply beautifully. So yeah, really like them. The only thing that would make these better, in my opinion, is more shades, because I would love to see a deeper, cooler tone bronzer. I'd love to see maybe like a vibrant orange cheek. Yeah, I feel like more shades, but that can always come. If these sell well, which hopefully they do, because they are very, very nice. And I think these look, I'm gonna say I think these rival some higher end brands that I've come across. I like them. I like them more than the e.l.f. Putty bronzers and blushes. I think they have a nicer range, but I think these have a nicer formula and a nicer application method. So I think they've done a great job with these stick products, and I have seen people rave about them online, just on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, and I understand why. Now, I also feel the same way about the palettes. I think for the price point, these are very good quality. I don't think these are as pigmented as some other palettes that I have from higher end brands, but I think these give a really beautiful effect on the eye. And if you prime your eye appropriately, you can get a really intense shimmer effect. If you just put it on dry skin, like no primer, you're gonna get a very sort of twinkly, sparse effect, which is fine. If you use a normal primer, it's gonna stick there, but it's not gonna look as intense as like if you just swatch it. And then if you want a really intense shimmer, go for a glitter glue. So how you prep the eye will determine how this applies, but that's also the case with this sort of eyeshadow and Pat McGrath as well. Their sort of sparkly, shimmery duochrome shades do need something to grip to look really intense. So it's not exclusive to this palette, it's just sort of how you need to treat that formula. Some people I think might be disappointed by the mattes being quite sheer, but I think they're lovely and blendable and they look really flattering on the eye. So I'm cool with them being slightly sheer. I think it just makes them a little bit more easy to throw on during the day. And I love this. I love this sort of purpley pink palette. I think it's really beautiful and feminine and very like spring-like and really beautiful. And I also like this sort of gold and green one. I think this is more autumn, and just depending on if you suit warmer toned eyeshadows or cooler toned eyeshadows, they've got a palette each for you. Not everyone needs them both, so it's good that they've split them into two, and it's great that they're under 20 bucks because it's a very good price point for these. Also, I want to mention, which I forgot to mention this at the start, Australis is vegan, cruelty free. All right, so a big thank you to Australis for sending these out to me, even though it took me months to use them. So links below, information below, product names and stuff below, and I will see you in the next one. See you guys then. Bye.